Hello, welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, this is Eric, and we just saw Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, the live-action one, and, whew.
Well, that was a movie.
Honestly, it's not as bad. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. There was moments during this movie, particularly the first half hour, that I was going, this isn't good, but it's a completely innocent, harmless kids movie where I was like, I could honestly see myself giving this a 6, and then it fell to a 5 and is teetering on 4 for me at the moment because it got just worse as it went. And the biggest catalyst of that to me was Sonic was so annoying. The character was so annoying. And I get it, like, if you've watched the show, if you've played the video games, the ones that show off his personality at least, you know his personality is kind of already obnoxious. Like a likable obnoxious normally. From my memory, I haven't watched the show in a while. I grew up watching Sonic X, so that's not even the original show, but that was the version I watched growing up. He wasn't this annoying to me.
I don't remember being this annoying.
He was much more mature. He was a little playful, but he was like arrogant and confident. This was like a little kid.
It's just annoying, yeah.
It was just, ugh.
I had the same feeling as you. I expected this movie to be just a dumpster fire, like just crap and horrible and like in every way. And then as it was, the first 20 minutes or so, I'm like, I'm laughing at a few moments. This isn't bad. And then the plot kind of started developing, and then you started to see the giant hole in the plot.
I don't know, like, so everything that you saw as being a problem in the trailer was a problem in this.
Yeah.
But having seen the trailer, I had two options for how it could go. It would be the option that it was, which was just pretty much everything's bad except for a couple of things here and there, like Jim Carrey, for the most part, was fun, and there's a couple of harmless moments throughout. Or the other option that I was hoping for in the first half hour, made me think it might be, was it would be all like that. The whole thing would be harmless, and it would just be senseless stupidity like you see in the trailer. He can go extremely fast, so fast that when a million rockets are flying at him, he just stands there and yawns, but then he gets shot by a dart. That kind of stupidity. Like, that's what I was kind of thinking. Like, maybe it will just be, stupid, innocent, like it's not breaking any new ground as a kid's film. It's not coming up with any interesting plot. But it'll be harmless and enjoyable, and this might be some kid's favorite movie. I don't think so anymore. I don't want to give the impression that this was god-awful, because it wasn't. It really wasn't. If they had kept the original animation, it would have been in that territory, I think, because that would have dropped it down another 2 stars at least. Right now, like I said, it's somewhere between a 4 and a 5, so it's definitely not good. Like, I don't want to give away any illusion of either direction. It's just about as down the middle road, teetering to the bad side as possible.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm literally right there with you. I was feeling the same thing, except with Jim Carrey, I didn't find him good. Like,
no, you didn't like him?
I saw a man trying really hard with what he had, and
he had nothing to work with.
And it just didn't work. There were a couple lines here and there that I was like, okay, that's genuinely funny. But I also felt like he was recycling a lot of like characters that he's done in other movies. I felt like he was borrowing from them.
I saw Ace Ventura a couple times. I saw The Grinch a couple times. But it really did come down to the lack of material he had to work with. It wasn't like he was bad. It was like he was trying so hard to say, come on guys, let's make a good movie. And everybody else around him was like, I'm just getting a paycheck.
I thought he was going to phone it in. And when I'm watching, I'm like, he's really going in on this character. He wants this character to be awesome. But
and I initially had that fear too, but I've been, like I was telling you earlier, I've been watching a lot of interviews, and every time they asked him about his character, he was like, oh, I love this character. It's the interesting, like, you look at, like, what makes his character him is, like, the insecurity and the lack of, like, he hates himself. And so I was like, oh, holy shit. He's going in on, like, who Robotnik is. This movie did not ask him to do that. No writer or director or any producer involved in this movie was like, hey, we need you to really no. You can tell by the way everything else in production was. Nobody else really gave a damn, except for maybe the guy who played Sonic was trying, but I think was a miscast. His voice wasn't awful, but his personality was horrible. Just wrong. Like I said, I didn't I wasn't that invested in Sonic, but I've played all the a lot of the video games and watched a version of the TV show, and he wasn't like that. He wasn't that annoying. He was annoying. He wasn't that annoying.
Thank God they fixed animation, because this would have been a lot worse. Because now that I didn't even when the trailer came out, I didn't even finish it. I can't watch this. And then when they fixed them, I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. I didn't even look at it that closely, but actually, as I was watching the movie, I'm like, yeah, all right, that's pretty accurate to the character. Yeah. And I was noticing how off they were. They were really off.
Yeah, it was a really good Sonic model, but you could tell they rushed it because he still didn't quite move right, especially his face.
Yeah.
And so it's like what they did, and I'm assuming this is what they did because they were so short on time and money, is they already had the skeleton model, and then they stripped it and put new material on top of it. So he was still having the same movements and everything of the original skeleton, and it didn't quite line up. It was almost correct, but it wasn't.
Right.
And so you saw certain moments where his mouth didn't quite move right, or his face didn't quite move right. And it's like, if they had been given a couple more months, this had been pushed to summer, it would have looked even better and would have worked even better. But I think they knew, and we know, it wasn't worth that.
Yeah.
Like, this movie isn't a summer blockbuster, and it wasn't going to be able to compete with anything, so might as well just put it in February when nobody's watching anything anyway.
Actually, opening weekend, it did do pretty good considering. 75 million is not bad.
That's not bad.
No.
I almost would have preferred the dumpster fire we would have gotten, because there would have been more things to enjoy about it, because it would have been so bad.
Yeah.
This version we got was just so meh that I'm not going to really remember anything about it except for the couple of moments that were funny. Whereas if this was horrible, I would have remembered the couple of good moments. They would have stood out as like, oh wow, that was actually good. And then you would have had all of the amazing cluster to react to that would have been even better, and we would have had a much better review to do right now. You never jumped the shark. It had a pool with like a shark floaty in it and a ramp and a guy on a bike going, I'm gonna jump it. And then he never did anything. So you're like, that's not even a real shark. Like, what are we doing here?
It's like the guys creating the movie couldn't realize what a ridiculous concept this is.
Right.
like it doesn't, video games generally don't need to be made into movies. Not this type of
And they're
movies.
never really good.
No.
And the sad part is this is one of the better ones I've seen.
I know. Very, and it's very dumb.
Can you think of one that's better off the top of your head?
You know what? I love Prince of Persia. Was okay.
I didn't finish that, but it might be better. It might be better than this.
They did touch on things that happened in the video games, but not too much. Like he saved animals in the beginning, right? No, that was too in your face. The
dialogue was obnoxious. Where he wakes up and goes, "Oh, I gotta go fast," and it's like. Yeah, what? Okay. And then there's just a lot of Easter eggs. They're not even really Easter eggs because they're in your face.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going on an Easter egg hunt, and then you walk out and there's a basket full of Easter eggs. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. They're already opened, and the chocolate's unwrapped for you. Easter egg hunt? No.
There was also a lot of pop culture references in this movie.
Oh God, he started flossing.
Yeah. And I'm too old to even think that stuff's even remotely cool. I'm sure you are too, but I'm older than you. But man, the Olive Garden references twice.
Yeah.
Flat out used their tagline, commercial, everything.
Yeah, it was seriously, what was the conversation? It was like, oh, check the apps on his phone. It's like, I don't have any apps on my phone except Olive Garden, because when you're there, they're family. And I was like, we're doing that? I feel like maybe that was a reshoot when they said, hold up, we need a lot more money because of all the money we're putting back in the CGI. What can we do for reshoots? And that was a last minute thing that they did. Anything before Sonic met James Marsden felt like a reshoot, because they were like, oh shoot, Sonic doesn't have a personality. Let's give him personality. We'll have him do all of this stuff. And it didn't feel connected to anything and felt weird. And also, this is a small spoiler, but it's not a big deal. They go over his backstory in the first couple scenes, and I personally had never heard this version of the backstory ever, and it was odd because it would have been so easy to tie this in, him coming into the universe as a super fast, super freak thing, and gone oh, he's an alien, so he's got superpowers, kind of like the Superman thing. It's he's normal on his planet. When he comes here, it's crazy. No, he's a superhero on his own planet, and so he's also one here. And it's that was unnecessary. You didn't need. You just added confusion by doing that, because I was just scratching my head going, Wait, what?
I don't know of any backstory to him. I stopped playing when they got the Dreamcast because then it was just about just going fast and it was 3D, and then he was also in the human world, which
Right.
in video game form seemed even weirder than in this movie.
Well, I mean, the TV show, he was with humans too.
Was he?
Yeah.
I don't remember it enough. I
It's
didn't
kinda
watch
like a-
religiously. I just saw it here
It's
and
like a Pokemon scenario where it's
Okay.
like you've got like the creatures, and then you've got like a couple of kids, and then an old guy.
It was the same world though. It wasn't because this was a different world.
I think it was Earth.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I never really checked.
World or realms? Did it say it was a realm?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember. I forgot
what
already.
What are we talking about? This movie actually does deserve a spoiler section. A lot of times with these dumb movies,
Yeah.
we just go like, it's bad, don't watch it. But you really have to dig into these scenes to talk about how dumb they are, because otherwise it's just like weird. All you can say is the movie's awkward.
Yeah.
Because it is. I guess we're getting into spoilers
Sounds
now.
good.
I don't know
Sounds
what
good.
else to say about it. Official rating is like 4 out
Yeah.
of 10. If you're like me, I was gonna go see it regardless of how bad it looked because Jim Carrey was in it, and that's just the thing. And Jim Carrey had his enjoyable moments. I thought he was funny most of the time. I think I liked him in it more than you did a little bit.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't want to pretend that this was him at his A game. What it really reminded me of was the incredible Burt Wonderstone, where it's like obviously Jim Carrey is trying way harder than anybody else involved in
Right.
this project. So that kind of scenario where it's like the rest of the movie is kind of cringy. Burt Wonderstone was definitely better than this though. Burt Wonderstone's like a 5.5 to a 6. This is a 4.5 to a 5. So that's your reference there. Talking about other movies. That's how much we enjoyed this movie. All right. Gonna get in spoilers now. So if you liked it, please like it, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you later. Bye. I can't believe they killed Sonic off. So, like, yeah, from the trailer with the whole getting shot with the dart, you're going, okay, why didn't he dodge it? And then the whole plot, though, is that hole. He opens up a ring to San Francisco by accident and drops his bag of rings through it, and then it closes. So now he needs to go to San Francisco to get his rings so he can go to the next realm because this one's been compromised. So then he's like, oh, I need to go to San Francisco and you need to help me get there. And for a while he's all shaky because he was just tranquilized. So I'm thinking we're going with this.
Yes.
He can't run fast.
Exactly what I
so
thought.
taking the car would be faster. And goes, no, I can run over the rubber band place and come back in a second. But I need you to drive me because I don't know how to get there. And he goes, well, go west. He goes, okay. And he runs west into the Pacific Ocean and then comes back all mad, quoting Dumb and Dumber, going, I got a fish on my head. You're deliberately trying not to get there. Like, seriously, just run along the road, follow the signs, you'll get there eventually. You take a few wrong turns, you're Sonic, you'll get there within a day, I promise. You could go across the entire country. You could go to every state. You could go to every country in the world, every major city in every country in the world, in a day.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Pretty much. Which is reinforced by the first scene of the damn movie.
Yes.
The first scene is him just running all
Around
over
the
his-
entire world. He said, I could do it in an hour.
Yeah, everything like getting shot with the darts. Like, how did you not just dodge that? Like,
How did he not dodge that? And then it comes up again later so they finally get to San Francisco and the bag of rings are on top of the building and he goes, I can't do it by myself because you need a key to get up through the door. Like, or you could run up the side of the building and you go, oh, well, he's not that fast. Well, he does it later.
yeah, right.
So,
he does the exact thing later. He dodged about 50 missiles and couldn't dodge a dart. He wrapped a bunch of people in a giant bar fight scene, stuff hanging from the ceiling, and
which also started
mounted heads.
in a really stupid reason. I know you went to the bathroom, so you missed this.
I missed
but
that. Yeah,
I was cringing so hard. So they're just hanging out at the bar, and these 3 bikers come up to them and go, hey, we don't like your kind around here. And Marsden goes like, what's our kind? Like, what are we? And the biker guy goes, hipsters.
because Sonic had a poncho and a hat on.
And
I mean, it's the best scene in the movie.
And so then Sonic grabs a glass bottle and pretends he's Keanu Reeves from Speed, and then goes
second reference. to
and
the
then
movie.
goes to hit him on the head with the glass bottle, but it doesn't break, which was kind of funny because glass bottles are harder to break than they are in movies. But then he starts hitting him really quickly with it, and it's still not breaking, and the guy's not reacting. I'm like, one, that would shatter so fast,
Right.
and two, that guy would be like dead.
Right.
It's just idiotic. Like, I get it. Sonic's logic has never made sense. It's kind of got like superhero logic,
Right.
where it's like your powers are dictated by the plot of that particular episode. Sometimes Batman can beat Superman. Sometimes he just can't,
Right.
depending on the plot. And that's how Sonic is. So it makes sense in its accuracy to Sonic. But Sonic already was kind of dumb, if we're being honest with ourselves. So it did it no favors in that regard. Okay, so he's called Sonic because he's fast. So you'd think that he's running at the speed of sound, but he's running at the speed of light,
Didn't even pick up on that.
which is just idiotic. And then how fast is the speed of light? It's a very big number. It's a huge, huge number. And in the scene in this movie, he's racing against the radar gun.
Right.
And he's happy when he breaks like 300 miles per hour.
Yeah.
He can go this fast! This fast! But 300 miles per hour is an accomplishment. Jim Carrey's performance solely, let's just talk about that, because I'm done talking about Sonic. I thought Jim Carrey had some really funny moments. But I really thought that kind of like the angry nerd thing kind of ran a little thin after a while. Where it's
Right.
like everything he was doing was because of something in his childhood, and it's like, okay, I get it. That's how people work.
Right.
You're who you are because of what happened in your childhood. I get it, and genetics, but. That's getting in too deep for a Sonic movie. Anyway, so you kind of saw from the posters and stuff that he didn't look like Dr. Robotnik, but then they released that one picture where he did.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, I'm waiting for that to happen. And it didn't happen until the very end of the movie. And it was frustrating because that was the peak of the movie. And it's like, this movie's not getting a sequel. Nobody's paying for the sequel to be made, and Jim Carrey doesn't do sequels anyway.
Right.
So that's not going to happen. But Robotnik didn't become Robotnik, really, until the end of the movie, because he gets stranded on the mushroom planet, shaves his head, goes crazy, and starts acting. This is where I start acting like the Grinch a little bit, but
Yeah.
he's going crazy, and that's the Robotnik that at least I grew up knowing.
Yeah.
He was an evil genius, but he was absolutely insane. For the rest of the movie before that, he's not really insane. He's kind of weird. Like, he's got that random dance scene for no reason, and he's like, he likes to talk really fast, and he likes to shout at people.
Yeah.
And he randomly spoke in French and one other language at one point. I don't know why, but he did. He never felt like Robotnik until that last scene.
Yeah.
And that last scene was by far the best part of the movie. And I was like, I would have rather had, I don't know how long this movie, let's just say it was 100 minutes. I would have rather had 100 minutes of him on that planet than what we got.
Let's get a Robotnik solo movie. Let's get that going.
Just him on a little CGI world with a bunch of mushrooms talking to himself, going insane. I would have really preferred that.
When the trailer first came out, my first reaction was, he doesn't look anything like Robotnik. What the hell are they doing? And then I was waiting for them, as the movie went on, somehow to get him into that character look. Then they just, like you said, waited till the last scene. They gave him the bushy mustache. Although, he's called Eggman also because he's fat.
Shaped like an egg.
Yeah, so
I'm assuming he's going to just eat a bunch of mushrooms and get fat.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I almost felt like he was like slouching a little bit to make himself look a little bit fatter already.
Right.
Like, I think that they were hinting that that's the way he's going, and he's not there yet. But like, I thought it was gonna happen sooner. Like, when he first like put the quill into his machine, I thought it was going to blow up and like deform him in some way to make him look like that. And I really felt like that was a missed opportunity to get that going more. Like, you could have had, like, I know this is dark, but radiation poisoning or something.
Yeah.
That could have happened. Like, maybe Sonic is powered by radiation or something, and it's not harmful to him or on his planet, but to humans it obviously is. That would have been such an easy thing to just say, because radiation is like, so easy in movies to just like, oh, it's radiation.
Yeah, write it in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. We'd buy that. We would buy that as an audience, is that Sonic is radioactive. Sure, of course. That's why the government could track him. I was still able to enjoy Jim Carrey. If Jim Carrey was the whole movie, I would have given it probably like a 7.5.
Right.
Because he was funny like 75%
They
of
could
the
have
time.
developed a character. There would have been some character development.
Right.
There's nothing until the last scene of the movie.
Right. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anymore.
You let him drive when I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, there's just so many random things that didn't make sense. Like, they're like, why did we let the alien drive? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
you tell me?
Yeah. It's like it was aware it was dumb, and they were just like, we don't have time to reshoot that. Let's just acknowledge it, and it'll go away.
And they did so many things. So many plot points were solely in the script for a cheap laugh. Like I mentioned earlier, he couldn't run up the side of the building.
Oh, God.
And so they have to go in, and he uses James Marsden's a cop. So he uses his badge to get them to the top of the roof. And literally it adds probably 90 seconds of runtime. Maybe 2 minutes. Because all that happens is he goes, I can't get up there. So then they go to the front desk. They say, a guy's about to kill himself. Let us up. She goes, you came from Montana? He goes, it was just that serious. Ha ha. Joke one. Then they go to the elevator, and they've got Sonic in a bag. And other people hear him, and they're just like blasé with it, going, yeah, we got a kid in our bag. Ha ha ha. Zip it up. So you added 2 horrible jokes for the price of making no sense.
Yeah. No sense.
Thank you for that. I'm glad you did that.
When he could have ran up the building, which he ends up running down the building anyway.
Everything about this movie was either completely predictable or stupid.
Yeah.
There was no other option there.
The funniest character, we didn't even mention it, is the second cop, like the backup cop.
Yeah, he was... Okay, so I don't know if you
really
felt
funny.
the same way. I didn't think he was funny. I thought he was so not funny that he was funny.
Okay.
Which...
I don't know if I laughed at him almost every time he was on the screen.
Right.
But it could have been for that reason.
Yeah,
I
just
every time
kept
he was on the
shaking my head because I'm like, I think they're trying to be actually funny.
Right.
But I'm more laughing because it's not working.
Right.
So you've got this, like, loser cop that is, like, the second cop of the town. I guess there's only 2.
Yeah.
And-
Woolberry or something like that was his name.
I don't even know. I thought his name was, like, Banana. I don't even know.
It's not important. He's
it
not
was
important.
stupid.
He was there for a few
But-
laughs, but he's not important.
And he said really stupid things, and that was his entire point of being in the movie, was saying stupid things. And sometimes it was kind of funny. I think the funniest moment was there was another actually great character, Crazy Carl or whatever his
Crazy
name was,
Carl was funny.
who had seen Sonic, but everybody thought he was crazy because he kept talking about a blue devil. And at the end, he pulls out a chainsaw and is like, see, now everybody sees him and knows that he's real. And then the cop's like, okay, I'm gonna take this now. That was funny. That was actually pretty funny. Also, what's great, you probably won't get this because it's a meme. Crazy Carl holds up a picture of Sonic, and it's like that stupid.
The drawing.
Yeah, what is?
Okay.
What is
I just
that
thought that was funny.
It's this guy.
Oh, okay.
He holds up a drawing, and it's that version of Sonic, and I lost it. I don't know. Like, see, that is a good way to have a modern social reference that won't age horribly.
Yeah.
And you know, that's a huge pet peeve of mine, is having relevant things in movies that date them immediately. Like, flossing is already not a thing. It's already not a thing. And this movie, at worst, was supposed to come out 3 months ago.
Right.
It barely was a thing back then, too.
Yeah.
And that's how quick social trends go away, so you can't really talk about them unless you do it cleverly like that, where that's a genuine Easter egg.
Yeah.
That is a genuine Easter egg where you're holding up a picture of something that looks funny to somebody who doesn't know the meme, but to somebody who knows the meme, it's even funnier because you're going, oh, I get that reference, that's the meme. That would be like if in the sequel, then he holds up a picture of Ugandan Knuckles. That would be even funnier, but we're never going to get a sequel, so that's not going to happen. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I am okay with that.
I was waiting for something to lead into a sequel, like something like
the ending scene kind of did.
Yeah, okay.
If they had been more confident in this movie, that last scene would have been an end credit scene.
Yeah.
But they knew, actually, people stayed for an end credit scene. We didn't. We got out. We dipped. But I think they were assuming most people would, and so they're like, they didn't want to put a scene after the credits because they're like, nobody's gonna stay, so here's our end credit scene now.
That's my first thought as soon as the movie ended. I'm like, please don't be a post credit, and they went right in that scene. I was like, oh, thank God.
Right, because you knew that they had to do that with Eggman. You knew that had to happen because there was a picture out there at one point of him looking like that. So it's like, it's going to happen. so don't make me wait. There was like a 5-year-old girl behind us somewhere. I heard her start making predictions about the movie. That's not a joke. That's dead serious.
Yeah.
I heard her start going, this is gonna happen now. And I was like, you know what, girl, you might be right.
You're onto something here.
Also, they had like, you know how you're supposed to have in the third act, you're supposed to have like a disagreement between the two main characters,
Right.
because it adds depth,
Right.
and it's just so overplayed and overdone, and everybody does it. They didn't even do it. You know, the first act is development. Second act is usually action,
Right.
and further development. Third act is when something goes wrong, and you need a resolution. Fourth act is resolution and finale. This is in the middle of Act 2, action scene, and that's when they have the best friend fight.
Yeah.
And it goes away immediately.
Yeah. Like never talked about it again.
What? Like,
Except-
not only was it bad, it was out of place. It's like if you have, like, the getting the girls scene that's supposed to be at the end of the movie.
Right.
If that was in the middle of a fight scene in Act 2, that's how out of place this feels. Like, it's just, what are we doing
Yeah.
right now?
They didn't even reference their fight at all again until the very end when he apologized.
Right.
I mean, I guess.
Also, James Marsden kept saying, well, I saved your life.
Yeah.
Like, at what point?
Right.
Like, did he save his life?
Logic of this movie.
Did he do anything to save his life? He tranquilized him.
Yeah,
That didn't save his
which
life.
endangered him.
Yeah, it endangered him.
But back to the thing that doesn't make sense is he could have easily thrown the ring when he first heard the dogs above his little cave thing.
Yeah.
And
He's
he
like,
hesitated.
Oh, I can't do it. They're right outside. And that's how he talked a lot, by the way. He liked to explain the plot, the stupid parts of the plot, to the audience so that you would understand, oh, it's not stupid. It makes sense.
Yeah, all right. I explained it. It's
No.
a dumb explanation, but I explained it.
There was no logic
No.
to anything in this movie, and most of the actors were garbage.
Oh, God, yeah.
Marsden held his own. I mean, he's used to playing alongside nobody a lot now. He did Hop.
Oh,
Now is this.
God.
So, yeah, this movie is just meh.
Yeah,
Like, in
yeah.
every way, like, I'm not, like, mad about it. Like, this didn't offend my childhood like The Grinch did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not mad coming out of this movie, and I'm not, like, sitting here seething about it. I'm
Right.
just like, yeah, well, first of all, the trailer had... It's exactly what I kind of expected from the trailer. It's
yeah,
just like,
yeah.
in every way, just like, ugh, okay. There's plenty wrong with it, but it's like laughable and silly.
And
like
innocent. It's just.
yeah, it's just like they weren't making a piece of art and they knew it.
Right.
The only one who was actually trying to make a good movie was Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Everybody else knew that they were making garbage and so kind of put in the bare minimum. From the writer to the director. Actually, the cinematographer had like 2 good shots in the movie that I was taken aback by because I was like, oh,
Where did that
good.
come from? Yeah.
We did something good. Jim Carrey was walking down the aisle of his little truck thing, and the shot started upside down and spun around
that
as
was
he
cool.
walked, and I was like, we cared enough to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, and then
just
that
been a
was,
straight shot,
and
would've
there
been
was,
fine.
yeah, and there was nothing else like that until the very end battle where Sonic is charging up. And it cuts to Robotnik, and he puts on the goggles. It cuts back to Sonic. He's charging up. Back
and
to
yeah,
his eyes, and you just see Sonic reflected in his goggles. That was a great shot. And I was like, once again, we're trying that hard. But like, those were the only 2 moments that were impressive or worth mentioning. And then nothing else in the movie but Jim Carrey was good at all. So you just feel bad about Jim Carrey because like he cared, and I think he always does. Like, I don't know that he's ever put in a performance that he wasn't at least partially proud of,
Right.
because he always puts in 100%. He also is extremely picky about the roles he takes. Now he's not always picking roles that he thinks are going to be good movies, but he's picking roles that he can relate to,
Right.
and that he wants to do because it resembles and reflects that season of life he's in right now. There's a piece of Robotnik that Jim Carrey relates to, and that he is so insecure, so he always puts on a front to put other people in their place so that he looks good.
Right.
And I think Jim Carrey is very sensitive to that side of his personality right now, and he wants to put it out there. And that's so much deeper and more interesting than anything that was in this garbage movie. And it's a shame because, like, I know Jim Carrey poured his heart and soul into this performance. There was nothing to do with it.
Ugh.
Nothing at all. And that's a shame.
Yeah.
Because he put in a passing grade here.
Such bad material too. Some of the lines, even as hard as he was trying with some of the
there
lines,
were some things
like,
you just can't work with. Like he was walking up to trying to get into Marston's house when he first is starting to track Sonic, and he's pretending to be from the electric company, and it's like, oh, here's a good premise to a joke. And then it just stops.
Yeah.
And it's like so many times that like this whole movie was just a tease like that, where it's like you could see the beginning of something almost clever coming up, and then they'd be like, okay, moving on now. And you're like, oh, but we had something there.
Right.
And you know that's not Jim Carrey's fault, because you know Jim Carrey would run with these things because he ad-libs a ton. And a couple moments in there, you could tell he was ad-libbing. Like there was a couple of things where there was like a conversation and you could tell there was a definitive end to it. And then he'd like turn and say one more thing, and then the scene would cut. And you're like, I know he just added that in.
Right.
But like that comes down to directing and editing, where they tell him when to stop, because you know comedians like Carrey or like Robin Williams or a lot of those guys, Will Ferrell, they just go until the director won't let them anymore.
Right.
That's just how they work. And so I know Jim Carrey was putting out more than what was there, and so it pisses me off that the director cut him off when he did. Maybe it's because it was a kids movie and they're like, we can't do too much of it.
Right.
But I know that's not true, because A Series of Unfortunate Events is actually hilarious and it's a kids movie.
Yeah. Well, maybe he did just go and then they edited it down to what they thought
just got rid of it.
What they thought was the appropriate line.
I know. I know he's funny. I know he is. That's like the only disappointing thing about this, though. Like that's the only thing that I actually am like upset about, because everything else I wasn't offended by. I was just like, meh. So just the fact that I know that he probably put in way too much work for this, just that's upsetting to me.
And he also doesn't do as many movies as he used to either.
He went on like a semi-retirement. This is his first movie in like 4 years.
Yeah.
So I hope this doesn't discourage him from doing more, because I know the reviews aren't good.
Right.
So like, I hope he keeps making movies, because I do miss him. Like I know he's very talented, and his movies, I always enjoy them, even if they're not the best. So I hope that he keeps making movies.
Well, if he doesn't, just keep making Kidding, because
that's phenomenal.
Yes.
Anyway, I think we're done here.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.